Good evening and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin. I'm so happy that you're here today because we're going to talk about the 10 highest rated books by average rating on my red shelf according to Goodreads. Whether I agree with them or not, we're going to find out together. First things first, rules. If it is a number out of a series, I will talk about either the series as a whole or the specific books, i.e. like if Harry Potter shows up, there are probably a couple on the top. I'm only going to talk about the specific book or the series as a whole once, and then we'll get to 10. It'll shake out one way or another. First one, I'm gonna put a screenshot in my Goodreads in order by average rating. The first one on the list and the second one on the list is the Saga series, Saga Book 1 and Saga Book 2, which are compilations of the individual comics all rolled into one. These giant, wonderful, glorious books. The Saga Book 1 has a 4.68 rating and Saga Book 2 has a 4.67 rating, and I freaking love this series. I love the characters. I love the artwork. It is sci-fi. It is slice of life, big, branching. I'm growing with the characters. I'm loving these characters. And book 3 recently came out. I had been on the wait list for a long time and then they closed our libraries, so now I have to wait and hope that once libraries come back open I get it ASAP, because I cannot wait to continue reading this series. I cannot recommend it enough. Brian K. Vaughan writes a couple other graphic novel series that I really want to try because I love Saga so much. Obviously, I gave both books a 5 out of 5 overall reading experience. I'm gonna tag my reviews below for anything that I have a video review for, so you can find them below and watch them individually if you want more information for something. Also, I forgot to mention that I got this idea from Jean at Bookish Thoughts, and I will tag her video down below as well. I really thought it was creative, and sometimes it's just nice talking about books that you love, or maybe looking at a list of books that you hope you agree with the fact that everybody loves them. So the next book I'm going to mention is the last one on this picture, which is A Court of Mist and Furies, book 2 in the ACOTAR series. I read ACOTAR and was just nonplussed by it. I wasn't impressed, and I had multiple people tell me that I needed to read ACOMAF. In hindsight, I'm not one of those people who goes back and changes reviews. If I gave it a 5-star review when I finished it, then it was a 5-star book. So as you can tell, it is a 5-star on my Goodreads shelf as well, because I freaking loved ACOMAF. Outside of 50 pages in the beginning, which I was like, ew, gross, nasty, no thank you, I found it a really fun, wild ride. I think that the last book in the series left a lot to be desired, but we'll leave that at that. And I actually have heard a lot of people talk about the series and heard them say that ACOMAF maybe should have just been a standalone novel because it was that good. I would agree with that. The next book I'm going to talk about is Just Mercy, which is by Bryan Stevenson. I gave it a 5-star. It's a nonfiction book about Bryan Stevenson, who is an attorney who has dedicated his life pretty much to getting people on death row a fair trial, because in Alabama they have quite a few people on death row who were biasly judged and put in prison for nothing. They didn't have evidence, but because they were of an ethnicity that wasn't white. Yeah, that book really pissed me off because it made me want to burn down the state of Alabama. I would highly actually recommend you watching my video review for that because I was salty. And I just recently rewatched it and found it really entertaining. The next book is Set to Music, A Wildfire by Ruth Awad. This is one of the most stunning collections of poetry that I have ever had the pleasure of reading. Ruth is a local poet here in Central Ohio. Her poetry, when I went and saw her speak first and bought this book because of seeing her speak and being moved just by her reciting a poem, she signed it for me. She's just a wonderful human being. One of the biggest things that I took away from that collection of poetry was her family and how she was able to take family stories or things that she remembers and turn that into this beautiful lyrical movement. It was an easy 5 out of 5 for me because every poem had so much emotion in them and it invoked so much emotion in me. Highly, highly recommend that if you are a reader of poetry, or if you're somebody who maybe you don't read it often, but you're always looking for something that's a little bit more of a heritage piece, because this is a heritage piece from her family, her father's story. Her father is an Assyrian immigrant, and I really loved it. The last book on this picture is March, book 3. I'm just going to talk about the March series by John Lewis as a whole. I gave every single one of these graphic novels a 5-star. These are John Lewis's storytelling. I mean, he's reciting his history in the civil rights movement with Dr. King and with the freedom writers. I found the artwork in here really, really well done. I thought that Lewis gave a perspective that I personally had not seen in a very easy, accessible way, which is really important because I think a lot of times people want to go and be really, and it's not a bad thing because I like these types of stories, but people want to go and give you so much detail and all of the dates and the people, and because those people are important, I think it puts a lot of people off because it's not an accessible, where this is a graphic novel and he's giving you names of people, but the artwork is able to show so much without needing as many words. And I found it really powerful. Definitely recommend this. You're gonna see a pattern here. I'm pretty much agreeing with all of the top 10 on my red shelf list. They all got 5-star ratings from me. It makes me feel pretty good about myself. Anyway, the next one on the list is Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. This is easily and it's referred to as the definitive history of racist ideas in America, and it is that. I cannot recommend Kendi's books enough. I have gained so much knowledge and so much education just by reading his nonfiction book. Recently I read How to Be an Anti-Racist by him. Loved it. I still gave it 5 stars, but this one, Stamped from the Beginning, is a masterpiece. If you are interested at all in the history of racist ideals in America from before we were the United States of America and after the Civil War, you've got to read this book. Cannot recommend it enough. An easy 5 out of 5 and worth every minute of that 16-hour listen if you listen to the audiobook. The next book is the first Harry Potter book on the list, which that is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. That's also my favorite Harry Potter book. Yeah, buddy. My favorite Harry Potter book is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which is the 6th one. I think that this book is a masterpiece. I love all of the history. It's really dark and really dirty and depraved. I lived for this. I thought that just about every character had a really fabulous story arc. The only one on the list that I don't have a video review for. I have Harry Potter tattoos, so obviously all the Harry Potter books for the most part get 5-star reviews from me because I'm trash. I was 11 when Harry was 11, so come on. Or I was 11 when the first book came out. I always like to think I grew up with Harry. I think a lot of people don't like the sixth one. I would say that before I reread it as an adult, the fourth book was my favorite book. As an adult, when I reread it, I still enjoyed the fourth book, but the sixth one was a standout for me. In fact, I'm in the process of listening to the audiobooks for the first time, and I'm getting ready to start Order of the Phoenix, which is my least favorite of the books, because I really can't be bothered with angsty Harry. I have a problem with him, but leave it at that. You can leave me comments down below. I'm not argumentative when it comes to that type of stuff. Next is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is a historical fiction book. Typically, I don't like historical fiction. And this is going to be a super unpopular opinion, I can really take or leave World War II pieces of fiction, mostly because I think that it's overdone. I have a hard time with all of them. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. At the same time, there's also a lot of not so great ones. But I think people who love historical fiction and who love that genre really go ham for anything that came out of that period of time. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just not my cup of tea. So for me, giving this book a 5-star review, and then I really was impacted by it, was mostly because the ending of the book is just devastating. The reveal at the end, the emotions, as well as this has a pair of sisters who are both very strong female characters, very different female characters, and I really loved that. I thought that it was well done. Again, the review's down below if you want to hear me gush and talk about crying for the last hour of the book, because I really did cry for the last hour of the book. Now, the last two on this list that I want to talk about is The Complete Mouse by Art Spiegelman, which is another graphic novel and simultaneously another piece of literature. This is nonfiction based out of World War II. Art Spiegelman's father was a survivor of the Holocaust, and this is his story. The graphic novel is just really spectacular. Spiegelman didn't parse his father's vernacular at all when he was writing this book, so it gave this really spectacular insight into somebody who survived the Holocaust, gave a really interesting introspection into the Holocaust without making it something that was so heavy and so sad that you struggled to get through it. Because I think sometimes, while I acknowledge that it is important those things are accurate historically, even if they are devastating, I think sometimes when you are reading something that is heavy like that, it's almost easier to put the book down and come back to it once you're in a better headspace. And since this is a graphic novel, there are pieces of humor in this. I think that it is more accessible across the board. I give it a 5 out of 5. It is one of the graphic novels that I often recommend to people. And the last book on this list is Becoming by Michelle Obama. I listened to the audiobook because I found out that Michelle narrated the audiobook, and I was really glad I did. There were parts of the audiobook where Michelle got emotional, and because she was emotional, you were also emotional, not just because of what she was talking about, but because you felt her in that moment, and I really appreciated that. I don't often read memoirs, especially not memoirs of famous people, unless they're like wildly entertaining, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, baby. So for me, this was a book club pick that I probably would not have read had it not been a pick for a book club. And I'm actually really glad that I did, because it's been able to give me a lot of insight, open my eyes to quite a few things that I was not previously aware of. I guess it's nice when you have a book club that likes to read just about anything, and I'm in a couple of book clubs, so that's a blessing for me. I don't know if anybody else would want to do something similar to this. Obviously, I expected to have more books on this list that I did not agree with, because I do tend to have pretty polarizing ideas on books. I can't help it that all of the books on this list were books that I absolutely love. Maybe in the future I will do the inverse of this, talk about the lowest average rated books on my read list, because I think that would be fun. I'll start doing research on that. But in the meantime, you guys stay safe. You have a fabulous rest of your day. I hope that your April is going well, that your reading is getting done, and that you, my friend, are staying entertained. See you later.